Welcome to Beyond the Riverwalk, the local weekly podcast that brings San Antonio's most remarkable people, places, and events directly to you. All links discussed will be in the show notes, so sit back, relax, and join Kevin and Melissa Barron as they ask the questions that you would. Now, let's get the conversation started.
So welcome back, everybody. I've got Andrew on the phone. How you doing today, Andrew?
I'm doing great. Just, it was raining this morning, and now the sun's out, and we're getting ready to enjoy our day out here.
Oh, man, I tell you, it was like thunderstorm warnings. It was lightning everywhere, and all of a sudden you can't tell. So this is weather, I guess, in Texas, yeah. Right? Oh, my goodness.
That is it.
Well, thank you for being here.
I hear it's supposed to get really cold tonight, right? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I hadn't heard that one. Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
You never know, I guess. You never know. Well, today we were going to talk a little bit about Southside Craft Soda, and I found you guys on, I guess it was on Instagram. Y'all been around a lot longer than I've been paying attention, obviously. But we've moved here. My wife and I moved here, I guess, about 3 years ago. And we're still trying to get to know the city and trying to understand a little bit about what we can get out there and do and learn and just people to meet and all. That's kind of the purpose for the podcast. But when I saw this out there, my daughter is a huge Coke fan. So I'm thinking, well, let's try to turn her on to something local. So let's start, by talking to you about, what's your background and how'd you get into doing what you're doing here? Because I was looking online. You've got this huge bio. I mean, you've done some amazing stuff professionally. So how'd you get into soft drinks?
Right. Well, it's so for 10 years I owned a marketing company, and towards the latter 5 years of that, I wandered into consumer packaged goods, mostly working with international Mexican companies looking to break into the U.S. market. And so that was kind of my first sort of venture into consumer goods and beverage. And a great place to start, right? Because, you have basically, established brands in Mexico wanting to get into H-E-Bs and that sort of thing. And so doing a market analysis kind of allowed me to kind of get my feet wet. And then really, what really got me going was I ended up getting a contract with Alamo Beer Company, and Eugene Seymour over there allowed me to be his marketing and PR company, and I helped him develop the brand in the early stages. So that's how I ended up in craft beverage. Working with him and launching Alamo Golden Ale and that sort of thing. In that space when I was there, the lead brewer at the time was Greg Spickler, who is my co-founder and of Southside Craft Soda. So that's kind of where our stories connected initially was through Alamo Brewery. So fast forward 3 or 4 years, I ended up taking a consulting gig with South San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, where I end up helping them establish their economic development nonprofit. So obviously going through and taking data and looking at market conditions. And one of the things I noticed right away was that, there was obviously the emergence of tech happening in San Antonio, but also, with the Culinary Institute and sort of San Antonio become a city of gastronomy, World Heritage City of Gastronomy, that our San Antonio's palate was diversifying. It was changing. Craft and really just higher end culinary experiences were becoming a little bit more democratized, right? So the community has now turned on to things like, I always think like ramen, right, has become a thing, and in this community, that's all really recent, right? Those are things that have just happened recently, and so the marketing mind in my head, I said, hey, and of course being on the South Side, seeing the things that were happening with Brooks and of course Southtown and just the World Heritage of the mission, that a new space was emerging in a way that I don't think most people realize in terms of craft beverage and craft manufacturing in San Antonio, right? I'd say it's an old space that's sort of seen a resurgence, right? And so looking at the landscape, I recognized that there was not a craft soda in San Antonio. And I said, oh, that's interesting. I mean, there's restaurants that do craft sodas on their menu and they do them in-house, but nobody was bottling a craft soda. And I said, that might be a really good opening. And then I could sell to, you know, our friends in the craft distilleries and the craft beer bars and the craft, and ran across Greg. Again, I said, hey, Greg, got this idea. And I said, I really want us to focus on a craft soda that is inspired by South Texas. And that becomes our space. That becomes our angle. And Greg is a Culinary Institute, Hyde Park, New York graduate, a local guy. And, you know, I'd come from that product development side. And lo and behold, Southside Craft Soda was born 2 years ago, two and a half years ago. And we made soda out of a keg, and we were kind of peddling soda around different flavors. And then about a year ago or so, we took on a business partner, Rob Rodriguez, who is a veteran business entrepreneur here in San Antonio, and really kind of put our back our back end together with our operations, and we were off to the races. And so we just bottled our first bottled craft soda, TexaCola, only about 2 months ago.
Okay, so timeliness wise, yeah, this is something that's relatively new to the market. And when I was looking online at your website, you've got a lot of distribution already at local restaurants, like you talked about, at local, I guess, other craft breweries. You've got them in a ton of HEBs. So what's it like to start a business like this? I mean, you've got, I guess is this pretty capital intensive, and in not only the logistics, but coming up with the flavors that you want to offer and what makes it unique to the area, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, you know, yes, it is capital. You need a lot of startup, right? And we're fortunate because, you know, one of the things that kind of lined up for us is that we still have maintained a great relationship with Alamo Brewery, right? And Greg went on to be, he's actually became their head brewmaster. So, you know, aside from making soda for us, we now are able to use Alamo Brewery in the meantime to help bottle and brew our soda, right? And so, just some very fortunate timing on that end. But still, it is a capital intensive venture to start out, right? We were, you know, my marketing experience kind of showed me that you know that there was that there wasn't a craft soda in the market, so I thought that there might be some appeal. We ended up picking up Hops and Vines as a distributor, which is a small startup local distributor who specializes in wines and craft beer. And so we were their first non-alcoholic. And that was also, again, great. You know, I always like to say the market was ready for us, right? And so we picked them up, and they've been a fantastic partner. Got us into HEB. We'll be on sets in HEB in June. That's probably about, between 50 and 60 HEBs in Austin and San Antonio. And then they also got us into central markets. And so we're going to be featured in central markets in May, and that's all 10 of them in Texas, right? So,
wow.
So that just kind of shows that you know, my 10 years owning a marketing company, I might have learned something, I guess.
It sounds like you did. I have my brother. I have one brother, and he's in New Orleans, and he's in the seasoning business. So they do blended seasonings for restaurants and private label stuff and all that. And I know very little about what he does, but I've heard some stories about how difficult it is to get into stores. So you must be doing something right. You've got you will have huge distribution statewide, or at least in our part of the state, and I'm sure it'll go beyond that shortly after.
That's it. Yes, correct.
Yeah. So how did you come up with the flavors? I see that Greg is, I can't even pronounce this word, is an apiculturist, so he is a beekeeper.
Yeah,
so is that's the honey connection there?
Yeah, that's the honey, right? He was matter of fact, that's kind of how I was like, hey, you know, the Greg and Andrew conversation, basically how we started a soda company. I was like, hey, Greg, that's this idea. I think I want to do craft soda. He goes, yep, that sounds good. And I said, Greg, do you want me to pay you or you want to be a partner? Or it doesn't matter to me. He goes, I'll be a partner. I said, okay, that's great. And he goes, we need to, I'm a beekeeper. And I go, yeah. And he goes, we should put honey in it. Okay, that's cool. It's like, okay, that's cool. And then I said, okay, let's make sodas that have South Texas inspired flavors or ingredients or even stories, right? I think that those are the things that will really make us unique in that right. space. And so we'll go through and we have things, if we look at our portfolio, I mean, we've early on, we were testing out some probiotic sodas, using ginger root and things like that. And so we've kind of tested some of those in kegs, and they're great. And those are fun sodas. We have one kind of it's a birch root beer, but it's not. It's a little bit cherry. It kind of tastes like a Dr. Pepper, but it's not. And so we've got some interesting, fun flavors like that. But really, I think the next three, these first three, TexaCola, it was our citrus cola. We kind of called it citrus cola for about 2 years, and we were talking about how we would make our own cola, and then we just said, you know what, citrus cola is a cola, right? And then looking, obviously, being the marketer, finding a great brand to kind of name to tie behind it, that just kind of gives it an appeal in itself. So the name TexaCola kind of originated out of I was looking at Texas Cola or something and then it just found Texa and found that it wasn't used, and then we picked that name up, and so we came out with TexaCola because it is a I like to say it's a Mexican style cola, that kind of alludes to natural cane sugar cola, right? And so what people like in Mexican Coke, for example, bottled cola, is similar in that it's in the style, but really we add Rio Grande Valley citrus. So we're using orange juice, lemon juice, and lime juice that is sourced from Mission, Texas right now. And so that really, to us, starts the connection and really developing what I would call really a Tex-Mex style soda, right? Because of the ingredients. The cola with the citrus, with the cane sugar, really gives you a nice flavor, right? There's a, it sounds like an oxymoron, but it's a simple complexity to it, right? It's just something about it when you're drinking it, it really hits you nice, like a nice cola on the front end, but then the finish is just a really great blend of citrus. And Greg did a fantastic job of creating sort of our own sort of orange, lime, and lemon citrus blend that gives you a unique flavor profile, something that you've never had before, but in a good way. It's like, I've never had it like this before. And I think that's what's been driving the initial sort of popularity of it. Obviously, being from San Antonio helps. Our local community is super supportive, but having that unique profile. So the next two are Beeville Honey Vanilla, which is our really artisanal craft soda, cinnamon, vanilla, cloves. It's a vanilla cream soda style, but a little bit different because the cloves give it a little bit of a bite, a little bit of a spiciness to it, but a really nice, delicious, complex craft soda. And then the third one is what we call Limoncito, and Limoncito is basically inspired by our aguas fresca, right? And so really looking at a lemon lime soda agua fresca, if you can imagine that.
Yeah.
And really, again, staying true, Beeville obviously is a town in South Texas, and that's important to us, that we found that name kind of resonates again with our story and what we're trying to do.
Well, and the branding you've got, at least for the company and then for TexaCola directly, I mean, to me, it looks like it's something that's been established for a really long time. It looks like it's got a story behind it. It makes you curious, and that's one of the reasons I was curious about it. So how does all that come together? Because you're one of the experts in marketing. How did you guys come up with what did you want the brand to be and to look like, and to reflect the community?
Right, and so I think that we're located, our office and we're working on a retail space is on Roosevelt Avenue, in between Mission Concepcion and Mission San Jose, right? And so, this neighborhood is my neighborhood. This is where I am. I'm what they call old San Antonio, right? We were part of the Mission history. Family's been here really for about 300 years on the South Side. Well, when the South Side was the North Side, right? It's like that's how long we've been
That's
here.
right. Yeah.
When there was no North Side, it was just, we were just here. We were downtown, I think. We really wanted, craft soda is really nostalgic, right? And you want to kind of give that nod to history. And our office is actually my great aunt's old grocery store from 1950,
oh,
right?
wow.
And so when you can see it if you're going to Mission San Jose. It's sort of right. We're working on it. It's being painted right now. It's been a slow process, but it's called Bustillo Market, and Bustillo. This used to be my great grandfather's ranch, which was around outside of Mission San Jose, right? Which is now obviously it's all urbanized now, but
yeah.
But that's where the history comes from, and so I knew that I knew as a marketer. And just as a consumer, just someone, I'm very proud of my family history, and it's a long history here in Texas. Man, Roosevelt's the old Camino Real, right? The King's Highway, right? So,
right.
all of that is to me tied to this story, and why it was important that we had South Texas influence beverages, because that's really my family's heritage, right? And being able to share our heritage in something like a TexaCola in Beeville and these sorts of things. And that's what, that's how Greg and we talk about this a lot, becomes really important. So we're well established, right, in the community in terms of our family's been here for 300 years. We're in my great aunt's old grocery store. The logo actually fits beautifully in our store, right? Because it's from the 50s.
Yeah.
And so that's how that nostalgia comes in. TexaCola and that branding, obviously for us, it's just we put a great product in a bottle, and Texans like myself, again, old Texas history, Texas family. Texans love our Texas, and people that move here love their Texas too, right?
That's exactly right.
So I think there's something that I think that's really why TexaCola is named, because to me it's it is as Texas of a soda as you can make it, right? There is no, and I could, and I will challenge anybody out there. It's like to make a more Texas-y soda than what we've made, because it has the essence of, it really is truly a Tex-Mex in a bottle, Texas in a bottle, and that's what's exciting about it.
Well, do you mind if I ask you a little bit more about Southside and how you guys fit in there? Because we had our first episode, back this year, was with Mission Heritage Partners, and we talked a lot about Mission San Jose and the other missions down there. And they were talking about different types of campaigns to bring business Southside. And we recently recorded an episode for the Barbacoa and Big Red Festival. It's coming up, and that's going to be released soon.
Yeah.
Or will have been, probably by the time this is out. But there's so much happening down there, and it sounds like you were an active part of that through the Development Council. So what do you see going on Southside, and how do you guys fit into that?
So here's the cool thing, right? Southside was actually shielded from a lot of the economic crises in the country, right? And it would serve as a good and a bad thing, right? Bad thing in the sense that we didn't really see a large economic growth in the last 20 years, even though as the economy was creating a lot of the investments really recent, right? You have to imagine. I mean, Brooks really didn't start taking off till like 5 years ago, right? 5-6 years ago. Port didn't really 5-6 years ago as well, right? I mean, so there was a lot. We didn't get the World Heritage designation only, but 4 or 5 years ago, right? So there's not. So so there's this resurgence is really recent, but what's really the great opportunity, right? Why people love San Antonio is because if it's real, it's one of the most authentic cities in America, right? I mean, it's genuine. There's people here, doesn't matter where they come from, their background, ethnicity. People here are genuinely authentic and real and friendly. And what's happened is that in this whole sort of in this whole boom of San Antonio's Southside has maintained a lot of its cultural roots, right? The only thing that's happened is that we've kind of, the city, the Southside's the soul of San Antonio. And I think there's an effort now from people like myself who are from here, just San Antonio in general. How do we preserve and how do we highlight the soul of San Antonio, right? Because what makes New Orleans special is that it has its soul, right? New Orleans has a soul to it. San Antonio has a soul and to it. And how do we maintain that as a community? And I think now we're finally starting to see, people begin to pay attention to all the history that's down here, and that we still have it. We maintain it. There's a authenticity to it. And how do we keep it and keep it authentic? Because that's really what's going to make, that's really what makes San Antonio so special. Where else are you gonna find in the country a family grocery store that's from a family that's been in Texas for 300 years on the Camino Real,
Yeah, you'd be hard pressed to do that more than once. Yeah, and the fact that you've got that is, it's not only a connection to the community, it's something that you want to share with people. And I find that when you talk to folks that not only have a family root, but they enjoy what they do. So, I mean, obviously you've done a lot of other things, and you wouldn't probably be doing this if it wasn't something you really wanted to do, because I'm sure it's not an easy business, right? I mean, it's got to be a challenging thing to source ingredients and right. And just to add to that, right, I think that that the great opportunity, especially on the South Side, and we haven't done a good job with this, and I think we're about to do a good job on this, and people realize this, is that there's about 1.8 million visitors to the Mission every year, and those Mission visitors are here for heritage, right? That's
and
right.
They want to know about us. They want to know the culture, and we just need to give them more opportunities to discover the authentic pieces of San Antonio, right? The real piece, because then what that'll do is that'll increase, the spending into small businesses on the South Side, which will then create, more jobs that are more, that have and give more people more opportunity, right? So I think the faster we can close that gap and create things like Southside Craft Soda on the South Side, or even what's happening with Cornitas Lonja right up here on Roosevelt, and this other lady just opened up this Gorditas Lala, right, which has lines out the lines around the block, right? Super simple, it's authentic, it's us. We just need more of it.
Yeah, and that's what extends not only the community, but just the feeling of being part of it. We've been here for, like I said, for around 3 years, and I can tell you it's the most like home of any place we've lived except home. We've lived in various parts of the country, and there's nothing that feels more comfortable and more reassuring to me. And even though it's a really big city, I mean, I grew up in New Orleans, and it was maybe half the size of San Antonio, and but this city doesn't feel as big as it is unless you're driving rush hour. Then it feels horrible. But apart from that, there's just so much stuff to do and so many things to find and enjoy. And I think it's amazing what you guys are doing and building something like this, and keeping it where it can help people. It's not just a business; it's out there representing the community. And so what's coming up? What are you guys working on? You mentioned a couple things that are coming out, but how are you involved, I guess, in communities? Are you guys part of festivals or other events that are happening?
Sure. Yeah, this weekend, well, this is, I don't know, this weekend we're at Taste of the Southside, a new event
Yes.
that started over here at with Blessed Sacrament, which is the nuns over here have a new event, and so we're happy to be a part of that. I know we're going to be at the museum doing their night cocktail event. We will be at PAX Fest on the South Side for the Fiesta. We'll also be at a couple of other places during Fiesta. I know that this audience here will be the first to know that we did get picked up by Central Market to be in all 10 Central Markets in Texas and be featured as one of their best Texas products, right?
Wow.
Or
Yeah,
something like
great.
that. So that's 10. So that's Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin. And so we're very excited about that. We kind of, we're kind of prepping for that, but that's next month. We have so much to do this month that I haven't really even gotten to talk about next month, but then we'll be developing our next product line, right? Which is our Beeville Honey Vanilla, and that one we're looking for early September launch. If that, and then we have, of course, our Limoncito. We've got a couple of things we're working on for next year. One of them is that we have developed a mesquite bean root beer. Which we're very excited about. But that's been sort of a innovation. Sometimes means that that the rest of the world's not caught up to you yet.
That's right.
And so, so we've got to try to catch up everything around us to get us to make that happen. And so that's what we're doing.
Well, that's pretty cool. Well, are you guys, when you launch something like this, do you have, I guess, a PR? How do people find you or find out about new things? What's the best way? I know the website is great. I mean, I've enjoyed just going through it and trying to figure out, kind of how the connections are, like I mentioned, between you and Greg. And it's a neat story in and of itself. But how do people keep up with you and what's going on?
Yeah, so we were active on Instagram at Southside Craft Soda. Facebook, obviously, our business page, Southside Craft Soda. And on our website, we try to keep that as SouthsideCraftSoda.com, really active with what's happening in terms of our events and where you can find us, our locator, and then our news of our soda. In terms of, we're really trying to get this Roosevelt property online. We were kind of came in here as we're just going to temporarily set up shop and see what happens. to now we're trying to maybe set up and see how we can maybe make this a retail and tasting room. Was not part of the original plan, but I think that's something that we're going to be looking at here now, since we kind of kept going.
No, that sounds like a great idea because it gives people a destination, not just a place to pick up a product, right? So yeah, that's pretty cool. I was looking at the locator map. So you've got places that people can pick it up, or is in Kerrville, Fredericksburg. It looks like you're all over Austin. Looks like New Braunfels area, Bernie, definitely all over San Antonio. And then you've got, like you said, bigger distribution that's coming. It's pretty neat. So we're going to have to go and hunt them down. Unfortunately, at the moment, you guys are not in our local, like really nearby HEB, but we're just going to have to truck out and find some. And it will be here soon, right?
We should. We did get word that we're in their sets. So for June, which means that we'll be on their shelves in the soda aisle. Right now, managers have been nice enough to put us on displays and let us in kind of that way. And so we're very thankful to HEB. They're a big local company, and then they support local, and that's very. We've just been very it's great. Thank you for that. It's a great opportunity for us to get our product out.
Well, we're going to put this episode out during May, so it will definitely be out before it hits the shelves, and hopefully that'll help get the word out to at least one or two more folks.
Sure.
Well, good deal. Well, we're going to make sure. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Thank you. Thank you for letting us talk here today and get our story out. I think that, we hope to have a great, obviously continue to make San Antonio proud, make the Southside proud, but, hopefully inspire, innovators and innovation, product and food innovation. That's something that I firmly believe in that can help grow San Antonio's economy. We need more innovators in the food and beverage space to make things and sell things and export things and bring some of that money back home, right, and create jobs. So,
yeah, that's exactly right.
I'm all about that.
Well, one last question, I guess. Are you guys going to be at the Barbacoa and Big Red Festival too?
I'm not sure. Like I said, I got April locked in, and if it's after April,
it's in May. Yeah, I think it's May 19th. Yeah.
And there's a good possibility if it's in May.
If you are, we're going to look for you because we're planning to go to that. We talked to Tony not long ago, and I'm really looking forward. They said they're going to be like 25,000 people there. They're expecting, so it's going to be great, and it's at Brooks, so that's going to be a really neat opportunity. But thank you, Andrew. This has been cool. If there's ever anything I can do for you, or Melissa and I, just give us a holler. We'll be happy to share anything that you post out there. Just tag us.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Nice conversation.
All right. Thank you very much.
I just have a good one. Bye-bye.
You too.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Beyond the Riverwalk. Send your comments, questions, and suggestions to podcast@beyondriverwalk.com. As always, subscriptions to our show are free and available wherever you find podcasts, as well as on our website. Until next week, join us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more conversations about our community.